Dank times, Danker thoughts, sweet vibes and taking it sleazy. The dankness is taking over, nonsense is dancing through his mind. Oh, the dankness is taking over. Dank times, Danker thoughts with Angelo Grosso.
Oh, welcome to podcast number 81 of Dank Times, Danker Thoughts with me, Angelo Grosso. And right off the bat, I want to give a quick shout out to the newest republic in Barbados is no longer under British rule. Barbados to remove the Queen as head of state and become a republic. And this is from the BBC. The country will welcome its first president, Dame Sandra Mason. How nice is that? At midnight, the Caribbean island will become the world's newest republic, removing Queen Elizabeth II as its head of state. Prince Charles is in the country for a handover ceremony as a representative of the Queen, but also in his role as her successor as head of the Commonwealth, in which Barbados will remain. The Prince of Wales will see a final salute to the British monarchy and watch as the Queen's standard is lowered. Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley said it was time to fully leave our colonial past behind. How great is that? And one of the first things they did in Barbados is name the singer and one of my favorite pop singers, and I have said it multiple times on this podcast, but I think Rihanna is better than Beyonce. Barbados becomes world's newest republic, and they have okay, I already read that. During the event, which is, swearing them as a republic, it also coincided with the country's 55th anniversary of independence. Prince Charles acknowledged the appalling atrocity of slavery the Caribbean islands suffered. Rihanna was declared a national hero at the event, with the new prime minister saying, "May you continue to shine like a diamond and bring honor to your nation." Fuck yeah, Rihanna. Good job. This is something that just makes sense.
On behalf of a grateful nation, but an even prouder people, we therefore present to you the designee for National Hero of Barbados, Ambassador Robin Rihanna Fenty. May you continue to shine like a diamond and bring honor to your nation.
How awesome is that? So, congratulations, Barbados. I wish we had more republics. I wish Puerto Rico would become one. Am I understanding this right? Republic, does that mean new country? Because that's what I thought it was, but now they're still saying that they're under the Commonwealth, so I don't know. My understanding is that it's a new country. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a difference between a country and a republic. I wish Puerto Rico would become one. Or a state, if that's what they want to do. Maybe that's what Barbados did? Are they part of the UK now? I don't fucking know. I thought it was a nice story, but now that I'm looking at it as I record the podcast, I'm realizing, you know what? I don't know the fucking difference. So either way, congratulations, Rihanna. And yeah, what else has been going on in the world? Well, unless you've been living under a goddamn rock, the Ghislaine, whatever the fucking name is, Ghislaine Maxwell Trial has started. I believe this is day 3 or 4. And for those of you that do not know, she was Jeffrey Epstein's partner, alleged criminal partner involving human trafficking, underage sex, rape, and the list goes on and on and on. There's tons of conspiracies around Jeffrey Epstein. Long story short, I'm not going to go into conspiracies because they're fucking wild. He was arrested. He was going to spill the beans. And then he, quote-unquote, committed suicide in prison. But there's a lot of shady shit about that. I personally do not think he committed suicide. I do believe he was murdered. But by who? I don't know. And that's where some of the more wild conspiracies come from. And I don't really give them any credence until we get actual facts. So I'm hoping with this Ghislaine Maxwell, I'm just going to call her Ghislaine. She has like 5 different ways of pronouncing her first name. And she's a hoe, so who gives a fuck? Now, I've seen Ghislaine Maxwell be called a scapegoat. That's what her defense is, using that as an argument, whereas partners in crime, predator, criminal, things like that. I think that they fit her a little bit more. But again, who the fuck cares about my opinion? But the Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell story is just fucking nuts. And in case you don't know really what all that is, basically he was a social elite, kind of a leech, but he would go around to some of the most powerful people on the planet, not just America, but mostly America and in Europe, but really all over the world. And he had a private island where he had some crazy ass houses out there, but he would allegedly traffic in women where a lot of them were underage, considerably underage, like 14 or 15 or even younger. And of course, you had the cream of the crop in terms of wealth and power that he would associate with names like Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, Bill Gates, Prince Andrew, the actor Chris Tucker. I don't know why he's on there, like he's so high. Robert Kennedy Jr., the violinist Itzhak Perlman, U.S. Senator John Glenn, former Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell, and there's a bunch of others. However, again, it's all alleged at this point. My personal opinion is, if you tell me that the top 1% of the world are going to a private island and having relations with underage girls, it wouldn't surprise me a ton. On the scale of 1 to 10, I would be 1% surprised. So, what's the big deal, you say? Well, we have evidence. We have first-hand knowledge of some interesting tidbits. And here are some that I have been reading about lately. Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and more allegedly flew in convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's notorious Lolita Express private jet. Yes, of course he had a private jet. Epstein's plane was derisively called the Lolita Express by certain media outlets following allegations that it was used to fly underage girls to some of the late financier's properties. The trial of Ghislaine Maxwell is currently ongoing in Manhattan, New York, and the personal pilot of Jeffrey Epstein has given testimony. For over 30 years, Larry Vysotsky piloted the Boeing 727 that reportedly hosted a spate of famous names, which include Britain's Prince Andrew and numerous U.S. senators. According to the Associated Press, Vysotsky testified that he never saw evidence of sexual activity on planes as he flew Epstein and his high-profile passengers aboard the two jets he piloted for roughly 1,000 trips between 1991 and 2019. Vysotsky told the court that he recalled Prince Andrew being a passenger on the jet, as well as actors Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker. He also remembered violinist Itzhak Perlman and named tech mogul Bill Gates and politician and former astronaut John Glenn. Okay, he just keeps naming names that I've already named these. During cross-examination, Vysotsky also gave details about flying to Epstein's private Caribbean island, Little St. James, saying it was a regular destination. The pilot was asked if he ever saw sex acts with underage females, to which he replied absolutely not. Ghislaine Maxwell, a former British socialite who was arrested in 2020, is being tried on multiple felony accounts, which include trafficking underage girls for Epstein to sexually abuse. And I really don't want to go into the nitty-gritty on some of these first-hand reports because it's quite upsetting and quite dark. And many of my female listeners would probably think it's not that surprising. But, oh, God. Let me pull up another story about this here. Assistant U.S. Attorney said at the start of Maxwell's sex trafficking trial that the British socialite and Epstein enticed girls as young as 14 to engage in so-called massages, in which sex abuse came to be seen as casual and normal after vulnerable victims were showered with money and gifts. The prosecutor sought to make it clear to a jury of 12 that there was no confusion about whether Maxwell, Epstein's longtime companion, was his puppet or accomplice. She describes Maxwell, now 59, as central to Epstein's sex abuse scheme, which prosecutors say lasted over a decade. She was involved in every detail of Epstein's life, the prosecution says. The defendant was the lady of the house. So I'm honestly surprised that she hasn't been offed the same way Jeffrey Epstein was. The conspiracy that I've heard the most recently, that kind of makes the most, not the most sense, because I don't really want to give these a kernel of belief, because I don't know. But there is a lot of ties to Israel with Jeffrey Epstein, and so there is some rumors that he may or may not have been connected to the Mossad. He may have used blackmail on some of these people, such as Donald Trump and Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and so forth. Maybe these rich people were just around underage girls not knowing about it, and they were photographed, and just the photograph alone could doom them to never win another election, or to lose whatever job they have, or to lose respect and power and money and fame and all that stuff. So maybe that's what they were doing. Maybe there is no impropriety happening here. However, again, if you ask me, if Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, who have been hanging around Epstein for years, there's so many photos and videos of specifically those two. If you would have told me those two were hanging out with a child predator, being flown in private jets all around the world and going to private islands to hang with these girls and do God knows what, again, I wouldn't be shocked. The Trumps and the Clintons, they're not fine people. However, I hope that this is getting covered by the larger media at hand. I don't know if it is. I know CNN is covering it and Fox News is covering it. I don't really know how much time they're giving it, so I hope it's adequate, because I think it's incredibly important. I want to know what the fuck is going on, because it is horrific to hear some of these allegations, which sound pretty truthful to me. And knowing what we know about how these rich, powerful people like to get their kicks, I want to see heads roll. I want to see people going to jail. I don't care who they are. I'm hoping Ghislaine Maxwell makes it through the trial without getting assassinated. I saw a funny meme where there was a photo of her and Epstein kissing, saying, "Isn't it cute when we finish each other's sentences," or something. I fucked it up. It was a funny meme. Use your imagination. It was pretty good. But yeah, shit is fucked up, and I hope that she is found guilty. To me, I've seen plenty of evidence. To me, this is a giant trial. Not so much because it is captivating because the rich and powerful, but it's what the rich and powerful were doing and getting away with and hiding, and enough's enough. They already take so much from the 99% of the population that they rule over, power over. Very few pay the right amount of taxes or taxes at all. Most of them are in charge of, well, at least the political ones are in charge of writing laws that they can use to protect themselves. And enough's enough. We have such income inequality in the world, and especially in America. And now we know that not only can they steal from us legally, but they also can, for the lack of better words, get away with pedophilia and face zero consequences. We need to see justice. Enough's enough. I'm happy that with some of the recent trials with the armed robberies and whatnot, because I wasn't entirely sure that was going to turn out well. And yeah, I hope we can keep the good vibes going where the guilty are found guilty and they serve the right amount of time. They should not be treated any differently because of who they are or how much is in their bank account or what they own. You know, fuck them is what I'm saying. Anyway, let's move on to some happier stuff, like the Cuomo's finally getting their due. CNN has suspended anchor Cuomo indefinitely following new revelations about his involvement in the harassment case against his brother, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. The New York Attorney General's office released transcripts and exhibits Monday that shed new light on Chris Cuomo's involvement in his brother's defense. The documents, which were not privy to before their public release, raised serious questions. When Chris admitted to us that he had offered advice to his brother's staff, he broke our rules, and we acknowledged that publicly. But we also appreciated the unique position he was in and understood his need to put family first and job second, the network said. However, these documents point to a greater level of involvement in his brother's efforts that we previously knew. As a result, we have suspended Chris indefinitely, pending further evaluation. The network said on Monday evening it would conduct a thorough review of documents made public by the New York Attorney General's office as part of its investigation into the former governor, who resigned under pressure in August after a state attorney, Letitia James, detailed sexual harassment allegations against him for nearly a dozen women. The documents show Chris Cuomo texting with former top aides to his brother, asking to be included in the planning of the former governor's crisis public relations campaign after the allegations were made. In one text message exchange in March, Melissa DeRosa, one of the former governor's closest confidants, asked Chris Cuomo to check with his sources in the media about additional women coming forward against the governor. On it, he replied, according to the documents. In another text message, Chris Cuomo told DeRosa he had a lead on the wedding girl, an apparent reference to a woman who accused Andrew Cuomo of touching her inappropriately at a wedding they both attended. In August, during an on-air apology, Chris Cuomo said he had never made calls to the press about my brother's situation. I never influenced or attempted to control CNN's coverage of my family. And as you know, back in May when I was told to no longer communicate with my brother's aides in any group meetings, I acknowledged it was a mistake. I apologized to my colleagues. I stopped and I meant it. Cuomo did not acknowledge the newly revealed documents or CNN's announcement investigation of him during his show on Monday. So, I got to give him a little bit of respect for doing the Guido thing, which is family first. I'm Italian, so I get that. But you know what? You dirty, dirty Cuomos, you Gazzotis, you Gazzatis, you can't hide the shit and be so corrupt when you are in such a high-level position like a governor and as one of the quote-unquote top journalists on a massive news program such as CNN. So it's all fuckery level 10 to me, and he should be fired. And anyone who buys Andrew Cuomo's book on how to lead, I hope you're using it as toilet paper or kindling. And it's just ridiculous. If you remember way back when was it Andrew Cuomo that got who the hell's the CNN bitch here? Oh, whatever. Chris Cuomo got COVID and he was doing reports in his basement like he was in Guantanamo and trying to escape the fucking prison from Shawshank Redemption. And they would do these weird family video chats between Andrew and Cuomo. Like, it was just so cheesy, and it was almost as bad as all those celebrities singing that goddamn Imagine video as people were dying and losing their money and becoming homeless. So, fuck you, Cuomos. You give us Italianos a bad name, bad reputation. We're not all dirty, corrupt perverts. Most of us are, but what can you say? Mamma mia, look at that Galuzzi over there. You can't help it. It's in our DNA. We're very loud, emotional, horny people. Nothing you can do about it. And we ruled the world for a little while. We had a good run at it. I think we did some good. We did some bad. But, at least we enslaved all races. It wasn't just blacks that Rome enslaved. They enslaved a lot of whites, too. Actually, mostly whites. So, in fact, Rome was woke like that. Oh, what the fuck am I talking about? Anyway, continuing on, there is a story that I am surprised is not getting a lot of coverage in the news, which is that awful incident in, I believe it was in Waukesha, Minnesota? Is that where it is? Waukesha, Minnesota? Where there was a man drove his car into a crowd of people, killing a bunch of people. I think he killed at least 6 or 7 people. And it got a little bit of coverage the day it happened, but then it kind of disappeared. And you would think, well, Jesus, someone driving their SUV into a crowd of people during a parade would seem like a pretty big news story. But I'm not hearing anything about it. So one of my trusted media sources, Breaking Points on YouTube, did a story about exactly that. So let me play you a little bit of that.
The most pernicious form of media bias that exists is not what they choose to show you, what they choose not to show you. Selective coverage, selective outrage, it breeds the taste, the cares, the attention of the ruling class, and the conditions of millions of people who watch cable news to look at politics in the way that is shaped from above. That is why I am truly puzzled at the current lack of media coverage and of the recent Christmas parade massacre in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Where 6 victims, ranging from an 8-year-old boy to an 81-year-old man, were mowed down by Darrell Brooks Jr. Now, we knew shortly after the crime was committed, Mr. Brooks was released on bail, by the district attorney that Milwaukee said that should never have been granted in the first place, and that he's a long-time violent felon. And then, well, it kind of just disappeared. It seemed like all reporting and inquiry into him just vanished. And not just vanished, when it was reported, his name was kept out of the media, weirdly. Both the Washington Post and CNN posting stories that say, from CNN, quote, Waukesha will hold a moment of silence today, marking 1 week since a car drove through a city Christmas parade. And from the Washington Post, quote, here's what we know so far on the sequence of events that led to the Waukesha tragedy caused by an SUV. A car and an SUV, they just bit it out of nowhere, huh? Look, let's be honest. They are afraid of making this racial. But it is not their job to assess it either way. It's just to report on the facts. And when you look a little deeper into Mr. Brooks, it does not paint a one-dimensional portrait, okay? Brooks apparently has a very long and bizarre posting history, which includes sympathy with the black Hebrew Israelites, anti-Semitic memes, and including admiration for Hitler. He bragged in the past about calling himself a terrorist, and in some of his old videos, a, quote, killer in the city. And he generally seemed to revel in anarchy of the George Floyd protests, posting incendiary updates around wishing violence towards some whites. In general, he seems like a violent, off-kilter loser with the social media history to back all of that up. And perhaps that points to the motive. But the problem with our media is their selective coverage. Lack of coverage of these incidents leads to the correct assumption by many people in this country that when violence is perpetrated by people whose ideas are at least tangentially linked to those in the media and the people institutional left agree with, then it's okay, justified, ignored, memory hold. It leads worse to a mindset that if the other side can get away with violence, or at the very least avoid the national reckoning that seems to follow any violence tangentially tied to the right, that perhaps even more violence is then justified. Getting out of this hellish situation is the Gordian knot of today's politics, and it requires doing what I'm doing just now. Just tell the truth. Tell people what happened. So let's continue. On top of Mr. Darrell Brooks' bizarre social media presence, here's what else that we know about him. Brooks was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression at age 11 when he was growing up in Milwaukee. His father was an alcoholic, and he grew up in an abusive environment surrounded by drugs. He began committing crimes as early as age 17. He was charged for battery, and then he was in and out of prison and in trouble with the law across 3 different states, including sexual abuse of a minor. He appears to have had a long problem with methamphetamine use and has been charged on and off many times with gun charges and a recent attempt at killing people in a fight with a car. Now, as for the crime itself, here's actually where things get kind of strange. Around 4:30 p.m. last Sunday, Waukesha police were called to a domestic disturbance between Brooks and one of his ex-girlfriends. It was after this domestic disturbance, Brooks barreled his car into the Christmas parade with the video that you've all seen. As of yet, there is still no motive. Was this somebody who had completely snapped? Was he planning it all along? So far, he's been charged with intentional homicide. Perhaps there is evidence that we are not aware of yet from the police about a so-called premeditated crime. As for Brooks' victims, 6 have died so far, all of whose deaths we've been charged with. 7 children remain in the hospital as of Sunday. 3 in serious condition, 3 in fair condition, 1 in good condition. 2 others were released from the hospital before the weekend, and at least the great side of this is that $2 million has been raised so far on GoFundMe to support the victims.
So there's a quick coverage of why it's not getting covered. And I was able to find a little bit of a story. Actually, is it dated today? Yes, dated today. The DA set a inappropriately low bail for the suspect. Again, they don't say his name, and I have to wonder, is it because he's black? I don't understand. I don't care what race someone is. If they do something awful like that, we should know what's going on, who it is, and it should get equal coverage. And just because he's black, that doesn't make a fucking difference. You know, if the same awful massacre happened and it was a white man who did the same thing, I think it would actually get more coverage. I don't know. But here's the story here. Milwaukee's County District Attorney said Thursday that bail was set inappropriately low on previous charges faced by the suspect in the Wisconsin Christmas parade attack, which resulted in tragedy. Darrell Brooks, who has an extensive criminal history, is facing multiple homicide charges. Durka. Okay. What was the bail? $1,000? You kill 6 people, sending dozens to the hospital, and you get set $1,000? Hold on a minute. That's insane. That is a decision on its face that I believe was inappropriately low given the context of what we knew about the defendant. That's human error. It set in motion a chain of events that resulted in a tragedy. Oh, so this has happened before. Okay. Brooks was charged on November 5th for allegedly running over the mother of his child with a vehicle. Oh man, he's driving over people for a while, which resulted in the $1,000 bail. I got it. Okay. In 2020, Brooks was charged for allegedly firing a gun at his nephew, but posted bail for $500. Damn. I mean, that is incredibly low, but I understand, if you're coming from a more poor, ghetto-y area, people aren't going to have that much money. But, I mean, you're running over the mother of your children, shooting a gun at your nephew. I don't feel like you should easily post bail, regardless of your social situation, especially if there's evidence there. Residents have cast blame towards the DA for the low bail amount set for Brooks and for the district attorney's advocacy for getting rid of cash bail. Oh, Jesus. Do you want to get rid of cash bail? Huh. Brooks's mother has blamed the lack of mental health resources in the community for the November attack. Now, that's more realistic to me, to what the fuck is going on. Again, it's another fucking tragedy, and it's not getting covered. You can question why, although it seems pretty obvious to me why it's not. It doesn't fit the so-called quote-unquote narrative that some of the larger media corporations want to pump out. But, I wonder, a black man running over white people, I bet that is in Fox News. Let's see. Fox News. Well, what's on their front page? Anything about the Waukesha killings? All right. Front story. Nope. It's something about Biden. Let's see. Biden's story about meeting former prime minister during the armed conflict seems to have some problems. Who gives a fuck? The guy is half there, Fox News. Okay. COVID variant. Yeah, we'll get to that. Well, no. Again, you would think Fox News would be covering this like crazy, but nope. What are you going to do? Even Fox News failed me. Some shocker. But speaking of COVID, there is a new COVID variant. It is called the Omicron. And I questioned, why the hell did we name it such a cool name? Doesn't it sound like a villain in like a Transformers movie? Omicron Attack. Something wild like... yeah, he definitely seems like a robot monster to me. Oh, watch out! Robot Omicron coming from space! And you just see this giant monster of robotic death. Something like Mechagodzilla or something. So I looked up, why is it called Omicron? When the WHO began to name emerging variants of the coronavirus, they turned to the Greek alphabet. So we had Alpha, we had Beta, we had Gamma, Delta, and so on. Oh, so Omicron was just the next in line. So actually, well, what's the next one going to be called here? What do we got here? By the way, I got to give Biden credit for not freaking out about the new variant in terms of like having another lockdown or whatever. I have a story here. President Biden further detailed his winter plan to combat COVID-19 within the United States in an op-ed Thursday, reiterating his vow that there would be no shutdowns or lockdowns. We are going to fight COVID-19 not with shutdowns or lockdowns, but with more widespread vaccinations, boosters, testing, and more. We will beat it back with science and speed, not chaos and confusion, just as we did in the spring and again with the more powerful Delta variant in the summer and fall. So I got to give him credit for not being a Chicken Little and saying the sky is falling, the sky is falling. I would recommend people get vaccinated, of course. I'm going to get my booster shot here shortly. But anyway, let me go back to the Omicron variant. What is known and still unknown? Intense research into the new coronavirus variant, first identified in southern Africa, has just begun. Oh, little side note. Some people are saying that the closure of travel to African countries where this is supposedly come from, that's kind of pissing some people off and being called somewhat racist. I don't really think so. I think it's just a matter of safety. I don't know why people have to make us think about that. I mean, if someone can explain to me how that's racist, it doesn't matter. I think it's where it's coming from. You don't want people going there and bringing more. Here. First identified in Botswana and South Africa, this new iteration of the coronavirus has prompted concern among scientists and public health officials because of an unusually high number of mutations that have the potential to make the virus more transmissible and less susceptible to existing vaccines. The WHO has called Omicron a variant of concern, and on Monday warned that the global risks posed by it were very high, despite what officials described as a multitude of uncertainties. Cases have been identified in more than 30 countries so far, including Britain, Italy, Belgium, and the Netherlands. And Wednesday, officials announced that Omicron had been detected in the United States in a traveler to California and a Minnesota man who had spent time in New York City. And I believe right before I started this podcast, there is now Omicron in New York City. So, wild shit. Should we be worried? Omicron's discovery has prompted considerable panic across the globe, with a number of countries banning flights from southern Africa, like Israel, Japan, and Morocco, barring entry of foreign travelers altogether. Oh, I read that sentence like a tardo. So there's countries banning flights from southern Africa, and then you have countries like Israel, Japan, and Morocco barring entry of foreign travelers altogether. It's amazing to me that I graduated college sometimes. But public health experts have urged caution, noting that there is as yet no firm evidence that Omicron is more dangerous than previous variants like Delta, which quickly overtook its predecessors in the US and other countries. Although Delta turned out to be much more transmissible than prior variants, and there is some data suggesting it can cause more severe illness in the unvaccinated, there is little evidence it is more lethal or capable of outsmarting vaccines. Much remains unknown about Omicron, including whether it is more transmissible and capable of causing more serious illness. There is some evidence the variant can reinfect people more readily. There are early signs that Omicron may cause only mild illness, but that observation was based mainly on South Africa's cases amongst young people, who are less likely overall to become severely ill from COVID. So there is some back and forth here. Again, I like that Biden is not going to do any kind of lockdown or anything like that. So it sounds like he's listening to the experts in this. Scientists expect to learn much more in the coming weeks. At the moment, they say there is no reason to believe Omicron is impervious to existing vaccines, although they may turn out to be less protective to some unknown degree. There is another reason to remain calm. Vaccine makers have expressed confidence they can tweak existing formulations to make the shots more effective against new variants. Also reassuring, Omicron's distinctive mutations make it easy to quickly identify with a nasal swab and a lab test. So that's cool. But this is the last bit I'll say. Why are scientists so concerned about Omicron? As the coronavirus replicates inside people, new mutations constantly arise. Most provide the virus with no new advantage, but sometimes mutations can give the pathogen a leg up by allowing it to spread more readily among its human host or dodge the body's immune response. Researchers in South Africa sounded the alarm because they found more than 30 mutations in the spike protein, that fucking spike, a component on the surface of the variant that allows it to bind to human cells and gain entry to the body. Gross. Some of the samples from Botswana shared about 50 mutations throughout the virus not previously found in combination. Damn. The spike protein is the chief target of antibodies that the immune system produces to fight COVID-19 infection. Yeah, get that shit. Having so many mutations raises concerns that Omicron spike might be able to somewhat evade antibodies produced by either previous infection or vaccination. So it's like a hornet sting. Like that. You know, hornets have the worst fucking spike that I've ever seen. You know, bees are cool. All bees are cool. Honeybees, not killer bees. Fuck those things. Alright, I guess I'm saying the cool bees are cool. Fuck everything else. Hornets, wasps, they're assholes. And that's what I'm thinking of when I keep hearing about evil spikes from the Omicron variant. I just see like a stinger from a big-ass Japanese hornet. Those mutations also raise the prospect that the variant will reduce the efficacy, I don't know if I'm saying that word right, of monoclonal antibody treatments, a fear partly confirmed on Tuesday with Regeneron's announcement. Still, it is worth remembering the fate of earlier variants that stirred concern. Beta and Mu, for example. Never heard of those fucking things. Well, I've heard of Beta. I never heard of Mu. Mu? There was a Mu variant? Never heard of that shit. Evolved the ability to partially evade the body's immune defense, but they never became a serious threat to the world because they proved to be poor at transmitting. So we don't know dick. Let's see. Back to what Biden's going to do here. Durka. Biden's plan largely calls for doubling down or getting the COVID-19 vaccine and booster shots for Americans who are eligible. He said the nationwide booster campaign would be expanded to incorporate more walk-in appointments, longer hours, and weekends. He also noted that his administration would reach out to the more than 60 million Americans who have Medicare, while pharmacies reach out via email and text to tell their customers to get their vaccine doses. To accommodate those seeking to get vaccinated together, he also said that his administration would be launching family vaccination clinics so families could receive the vaccination at one spot. He also pledged that At-home COVID-19 test kits would be covered by insurance companies or provided free for people to pick up if they did not have private insurance coverage. That's big. Okay, that's cool. So, again, I got to give Biden credit. Oh, so does LaFonda. And I'll just double down. Speaking of doubling down, I'm going to get the booster. I would like to get it before the holiday starts. Since I'm not going to Germany because of said pandemic, I will be around more family and friends, so I should get the booster. I was going to get the booster before I go to Germany anyways. So, yeah. And any of my listeners aren't vaccinated, I implore you to get vaccinated. I know it's your body, your choice, and all that dumb shit, but, you know, don't be so selfish. Figure it out. And if you do want to remain unvaccinated and you do catch COVID, I hope you're wealthy, so then you can get that Donald Trump cocktail or the ivermectin monochlor, whatever that bullshit is. And I personally don't think that that is a proven substitution for anything, but it does seem to quote unquote cure you of COVID relatively quick, but I don't know the details about that. I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't recommend it. If my doctor said it would be okay, maybe I would listen to her, but I'd absolutely have questions. So I don't know why this is so hard, people. We're still questioning the same bullshit we've been questioning for 2 years. Oh, God. I repeat my overall theme from a few podcasts ago. Are we actually learning anything, or are we just in a Tardo cycle of misinformation and mistrust? Everybody distrusts one another, regardless of what you actually believe in. So, I don't know, people. I choose to believe in science. I believe in the experts. I don't give my trust easily, but I feel pretty confident when I do give them to scientists. Now, I'm not saying that scientists are perfect. Of course not. They can be as corrupt as any politician, but the amount of scientists that are corrupt as said politicians are incredibly low. I can't imagine that it's even comparable. So, yeah, get vaccinated, get your booster, and yeah, continue living life, people. Oh, God, what else do we want to talk about here? Let's move on to some other fun stories. Amazon warehouse workers get to redo their union vote in Alabama. Yeah, baby! Now, this should excite everyone who gives a fuck about livable wages and giant companies paying their goddamn taxes and whatever. Amazon warehouse workers in Alabama are getting a new vote on whether to form the company's first unionized warehouse in the United States. A U.S. Labor Board official is ordering a revote after an agency review found Amazon improperly pressured warehouse staff to vote against joining a union, tainting the original election enough to scrap its results. The decision was issued Monday by a regional director of the National Labor Relations Board. Amazon is expected to appeal, of course. By the way, Starbucks is also doing this. And Kraft, there's some giant ones. Not Kraft. God damn it. Kraft is one of the companies that they own that's doing it. God damn it. Now I gotta look at my phone because I can't let that shit slide. I'm always for unions, and especially with giant companies like Amazon, who could easily pay a livable wage and give them better benefits and, you know, treat their warehouse workers like people. But, you know, what are you going to do? Not Kraft, it's Kellogg's. That's the other company. By the way, Kellogg's owns way too much. They own Special K, Mini Wheats, Eggos, Raisin Bran, Pop-Tarts, Frosted Flakes, Cheez-Its, Wait, what's the difference between Pop-Tarts and Pops? I don't know. What the fuck is... They own Kashi? Oh, son of a bitch. Rice Krispies, Corn Flakes, Chips Deluxe, Xtra, All Brand, Go Lean. Oh shit, I love All Lean. I mean, it's disgusting. The list goes on and on and on. They do not own shredded wheat. No, they don't. What the fuck is... Oh, Mooslix? They own Mooslix? Mooslix? That shit sounds familiar. Anyway, the news puts the warehouse in Bessemer, outside Birmingham, Alabama, back in the spotlight as a harbinger of labor organizing efforts at Amazon, which is now America's second largest private employer with more than 950,000 employees. The union drive is being led by the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union. Its president, Stuart Applebaum, hailed Monday's development. Today's decision confirms what we were saying all along, that Amazon's intimidation and interference prevented workers from having a fair say in whether they wanted a union at their workplace. A Amazon spokesperson noted that employees at the warehouse overwhelmingly chose not to join the union in the previous vote. Well, no shit. I mean, there was some fuckery there. If you guys want to look into it, they fucked with traffic lights so that when you were driving to it, you had to wait at the red light a lot longer to put your vote in. They would have quote-unquote union info sessions where they would just shit on unions to employees for about an hour. And they would fuck with people's... yes, LaFonda, chill. You make me lose my train of thought. During the first attempt in early 2021, seen as the most consequential union election in recent history, Bessemer workers voted more than 2-1 against unionizing. It was a defeat for the high-profile push to organize Amazon's U.S. workers after gaining nationwide support, including from President Biden, other politicians, and celebrities. The union filed a legal challenge to the election, alleging that Amazon engaged in unfair labor practices. Amazon denied the charge. Amazon appealed the recommendation of doing the re-election, saying it did not act illegally or intimidate workers, and called on the agency and the union to accept the choices of the Bessemer workers. I don't fucking think so. And, NPR has been covering this quite stupendously, and I highly recommend people... NPR is a great news source to begin with, but if you want to follow it for anything, follow it for the union stuff. Let's see... Oh, here it is. Let me read a little bit of how they fucked with some of the workers. Previously, the NLRB's hearing shed light on Amazon's anti-union campaign during the Bessemer elections. One warehouse staffer testified that during mandatory meetings at the facility, managers said the fulfillment center could shut down if the staff voted to unionize. Other workers said they were told that the union would waste their dues on fancy vacations and cars. One key controversy has been over a new mailbox in the warehouse's private parking lot that Amazon said was installed by the U.S. Postal Service to make voting convenient, safe, and private. However, the mailbox's placement inside an Amazon's tent right by the workplace prompted some employees to wonder whether the company was trying to monitor the vote. U.S. Postal Service official Jay Smith, who works as a liaison for large clients like Amazon, testified that he was surprised to see the corporate branded tent around the mailbox because the company appeared to have found a way around his explicit instructions to not place anything physically on the mailbox. But Smith and other Postal Service officials also testified that no one at Amazon has been provided keys to access the outgoing mail, or in this case, election ballots. A pro-union Amazon worker told the hearing that he saw corporate security officers opening the mailbox. So, who are you going to believe? Workers who aren't making a livable wage, or a giant conglomerate billionaire fucking monster of a company? Come on, common sense. What else has been going on? I gotta give a shout out to Capital One, the credit card company. Now, I've talked about it on the podcast a few times, but in my previous life, in college and a couple of years post-college, I worked in banking. I worked for U.S. Bank for 7 or 8 years. That was probably 4 years too long. And one of the many things that was part of my daily job was to monitor the overdraft list of the branch's customers. And I worked in primarily Renton and Covington. And so every day I would get like a 20-page document printed in fine print. I would see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names of people that were negative, with the highest balances, of course, first. And we had to call these people religiously. And it was an awful job. I hated it. I begged for me not to do this, but other of my coworkers had to do equal awful jobs. And I never quite understood why the bank would charge overdraft fees at all. Because if you don't have money, and then you're charged an overdraft fee for not having money, you are now negative. And so now you're going to be charged other fees for going negative. So let's say you go negative $5 because you had $10 in your account and you bought a $15, pumpkin spice latte. So now your account goes negative $5. You get hit with a $35 just going negative fee. So suddenly $5 becomes negative $40. So now you're $40 in the hole for originally going over $5. And unless you get notified of such things, meaning you have to participate and sign in to such digital notifications, you are not notified that you are negative until a day or two later when you are given a letter in the mail. However, you've now been negative $40 for 2 days. You are getting fees every day. So now it could be anywhere between $50 to $100 depending on what kind of fees were assessed. So negative $5 has now turned into a minimum of negative $40. And it puts you in a fucking hole, whereas the bank will just keep taking that money when you keep putting it in. The amount of just sad people that just broke my heart. And unfortunately, I got conditioned to it because after a while, you stop seeing these people, as individuals, and you see them as just customers. And that was a horrific element of working that job. But I would see people come in negative hundreds of dollars, $500, and they want to know, how the fuck did I get negative $500? And I look, and they may have gone negative initially $60 or $70. And even if we cut out half the fees, we're still making money. And the customer usually is happy. They come in furious. You fucking charged me $500 and I only went negative $50. Well, sorry. Why don't we waive half of it? So, and then after a while, you're like, okay, suddenly you have to pay negative $150, even though you went negative 50. So the bank still made money. You see what I'm saying? It's disgusting. It's predatory. It should be illegal. So why am I bringing this up? Well, Capital One has now become the first large bank. I didn't know they were a bank. I thought they were just a credit card company. Capital One is the first large bank to eliminate overdraft charges. Capital One made the announcement Wednesday, saying it is getting rid of all fees for overdrafts and non-sufficient funds. Those are two different fees right there, people. That's how they fuck you. It will also continue to allow customers to get free overdraft protection on their accounts. God almighty. That should be standard in every bank to protect this. And you shouldn't be charged a fee for dipping into it. That's another way the banks fuck you. If you do have a quote-unquote free overdraft line of protection. I have it on all my accounts. Usually it's a couple $100. It's basically a line of credit you can dip into to cover yourself so you don't get negative too much. So for that pumpkin spice latte example, you're negative $5. At the end of the day, your overdraft protection kicks in and it kicks over the balance. But they still fuck you because they don't carry over what you exactly owe. They carry it over in big chunks. You go negative $5, the minimum carryover in that account had to be $50. So don't forget, you're being charged interest when you use these overdraft lines of protection because they are credit lines. They are easier to get than lines of credit on your home, for example, or just an open-ended line of credit. They're not as easy as credit cards because why should that be hard? So yes, you go negative $5, $50 gets taken out of that line of credit, put into your account, so now you're positive $45. But now, unless you pay off that overdraft line of credit in a timely manner, you're going to get charged interest. You didn't need $50, you needed $5. Your bank account should stay at zero unless you want to put over more, but that should be something you have to approve. Anyway, let me get off my soapbox here. That makes Capital One, which is the 6th largest retail bank in the U.S., the first top 10 bank to stop penalizing clients for taking out more cash or writing checks for more money than they have in their account. Smaller banks such as Ally and digital-only financial firm Alliant? Never heard of that motherfucker. Have also recently eliminated overdraft fees. The bank account is a cornerstone of a person's financial life, said Capital One CEO Richard Fairbank in a press release, adding that overdraft protection is a valuable and convenient feature and can be an important safety net for families. Advocacy groups hope other banks will follow Capital One's lead in eliminating these fees, which have been moneymakers for companies that levy them, for decades. I mean, billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. You could probably start 3 more wars with Afghanistan for how much money the banks have taken from people. Many lawmakers and regulators have criticized banks for penalizing already cash-strapped customers with erroneous overdraft fees that have generated billions of dollars in revenue for financial institutions. Capital One had more than $425 billion in assets as of the third quarter and reported a profit of $3.1 billion in the 3 months that ended in September. Senator Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren lambasted JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Cocksucker Dimon earlier this year, referring to him as the star of the Overdraft show. You know what, Elizabeth Warren, leave the one-liners and insults to moi. So congratulations, Capital One. I may have to look into maybe supporting your business. I see you're struggling as only making $425 billion in profits. So I may have to ditch my Chase credit card because I fucking hate Chase almost as much as Comcast and Walmart and Target, and I could keep going with my venom. However, the reason I have that card is because I get Amazon bonus points, so when I buy stupid shit on Amazon, you know, I'm too stupid to get a travel credit card, you know, get airline miles to actually go see the world and travel. I would rather buy more stupid shit made in China on Amazon. Oh, I'm a fucking capitalist at heart, and it sickens me every day. I can't look at myself in the mirror sometimes. But anyway, congratulations to the union advocates in Bessemer, Alabama. Congratulations to Capital One. This is a big step in the right direction. But I think we can get ready to close up here. So that's the news that I have been following. I'm sure I missed some important stuff, but fuck it. If you're getting you news from me, you're part of the problem. Well, what's been going on with me? I have started rewatching arguably the greatest animated show in history, The Simpsons. And even though there's like 39 seasons or 38, something wild, I'm really going to only watch the first 8 seasons maybe before it really got shitty. I distinctly remember the episode that did it. The episode where there was the world-ending comet that was going to hit Springfield and kill everybody, and everybody went into Ned Flanders' bomb shelter and kicked him out, and he was willing to die so that everyone could fit in his bomb shelter. That was the last good episode of The Simpsons, in my opinion. But I'm interested to see if my opinion changes, because I am still seeing my 20-year-old lady friend, let's call her Kiwi, and even though there is a massive age difference, we're not really finding that it's an issue at all. And I'm finding that any issues that I've had about it is purely made by me. We have a lot of things in common, a lot of shared interests, and one of them is The Simpsons. She started rewatching it a while ago. And so over the past few dates or whatnot, we've watched probably 10 or so episodes together, but they're from the latter part of the series where I have deemed them not that funny. I'm talking late 90s, early 2000s Simpsons. I don't think she's even gotten into the 2010s yet. But I'm finding myself laughing and really appreciating some of these episodes that I remember seeing when I was in high school or college and thinking, ugh, this is the death of The Simpsons. I'm watching it now, 10 or so years later, 15 or so years later. They're not as good as the classics, but, maybe I was a little harsher back then because my brain wasn't developed like it is now, and I was just a judgmental little cunt, Now that I'm a 35-year-old boomer, I can now watch The Simpsons and appreciate them. But I would be remiss if I didn't admit that as I go through the first couple seasons of The Simpsons, currently I'm on the second season, and I just finished the episode, I believe, with the discovery of Homer's half-brother, voiced by the perfect interpretation of what a man should look like, Danny DeVito. One of my favorite episodes, but I'm finding myself getting very emotional watching The Simpsons from this time period, from the early 90s, because I'm not sure I have ever watched The Simpsons chronologically. I grew up with them on reruns, so, they were showing episodes from season 6, then season 3, then season 1, then season 5. There was not any order to it, so it was all just a mishmash of awesomeness when I was young. But now that I'm watching them in order, I'm picking up on things that I never quite understood. And now that I'm older, I'm catching jokes that I didn't understand. I'm having connections to characters that I did not like when I was a young man. I remember not liking Marge or Lisa at all when I was a young boy. Of course, I liked Bart and Homer. Now that I'm 35 and watching them, I find that I am kind of connected more so to Lisa and Marge, more so than Homer and Bart. I feel bad for Bart. I'm thinking, why is he so angry? He's got to be bipolar or some shit. And I see Homer, I'm like, Jesus, that guy is special ed. He shouldn't be having a job in a family. He should be in an insane asylum, you know? I don't know how Homer can leave the house without wearing a helmet 24/7. But I am loving it. And I'm not too embarrassed to admit, I have cried my ass off plenty of occasions during these episodes. The one that comes to mind right away was the Homer's brother one. The one where Homer thought he was dying because he ate the puffer fish at the sushi restaurant. That's probably one of my favorite episodes of all time. I also cried when they did a flashback to when Homer and Marge first met. Another one of my favorite episodes. And I think the upcoming episode, which I know I'm just going to be an emotional mess, is when Lisa falls in love with a substitute teacher that I'm pretty sure is voiced by Dustin Hoffman, if I'm not mistaken. So, I thanked Kiwi immensely for getting me to rewatch The Simpsons, because without her watching the whatever season she's on, I would not have done this. So, yeah, things are good there. I'm loving The Simpsons. I'm still watching Move to Heaven, that Korean show. I've been watching it for like 6 years, I swear to Christ. Every episode takes me forever to finish because it's so depressing. Although it's not as good. As the season ends, it's not getting as good. It's starting to go off the rails, but I only got 2 episodes to go. I can't quit now. I'm loving the new series Hawkeye, but I'm a sucker for those Marvel superhero TV shows. I know. But I love the tone and the sense of humor that the show has. I think they cast what's her name? Haley Steinfeld. Steinfeld? Is it Haley Stein or Stanfield? Whatever. Her character, how they wrote and created her, amazing. I love her, and I love the dog that's in it. It's just a fun show. It's a little bit like a PG-13 Die Hard sense of humor. What else am I liking? The new season of Curb is pretty good. Final Space, I'm on season 3. Excellent animated show. A little cheesy at times, but it's pretty fun. And I gotta watch that new Benedict Cumberbatch, Kirsten Dunst Western movie. I think it's called Power of the Dog or Wrath of the Dog. Something about the dog. It's on Netflix. Looks dope. I'm a huge fan of Benedict Cumberbatch. And I like Westerns. And I forget who the director is, but she's a pretty good director too. You know, let me look that shit up. Jen Campion? Is that her name? Champion? Hold on. Let's see. Is it called Power of the Dog? The Power of the Dog. I was right. Man, why do I ever doubt myself about movies? All right, is it Jane Campion? I'm probably not pronouncing her name right. Oh yeah, I forgot. Jesse Plemons is in there. Cody Spit McPhee's in it. Oh yeah, I can't wait for this movie. I love a good Western. I really do. But with that, I think we can wrap up. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Treat others as you want to be treated. And take it sleazy. And yeah, catch you guys on the flip side.